Sir Thomas of Blackmore gripped his blood-stained sword tightly as he surveyed the devastation before him. The once-verdant field was now a sea of carnage, littered with the broken bodies of friend and foe alike. The stench of death hung heavy in the air, mingling with the acrid smoke of burning villages on the horizon. This war, sparked by the foolish pride of kings, had dragged on for months, each side committing ever more horrific atrocities in the name of victory. Thomas's armor was dented and caked with gore, his left arm hanging uselessly at his side. From a mace blow, he'd lost count of the men he'd killed today, their faces blurring together in a nightmarish collage as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of crimson that matched the blood-soaked earth. An unnatural chill settled over the battlefield. A thick, oily mist began to creep across the field, bringing with it an otherworldly silence. The groans of the dying and the cries of terror. To his mounting horror, the fallen soldiers began to rise. It started slowly at first, a twitching hand here, a lolling head there. But soon, the entire field was in motion. Friend and foe alike, their mutilated corpses moved with unholy purpose. Limbs twisted at impossible angles, snapped back into place with sickening cracks. Torsos cleaved in two dragged themselves together, fusing in a grotesque parody of life. "God have mercy," Thomas whispered, his voice hoarse with fear. But there was no mercy here, only the insatiable hunger of the dead, fueled by the hatred and violence that had claimed their lives. As the horde of reanimated corpses grew, Thomas could see the hollow eyes of men he'd known. Sir William, his childhood friend, throat opened by a Saxon blade; young Squire Peter, barely 16, crushed beneath a war horse's hooves. Their jaws worked soundlessly as they advanced, driven by some terrible, unknowable force. Thomas stumbled backward. As he scrambled to his feet, he found himself surrounded by the unliving army. In that moment, all the glory and honor he'd been promised seemed like bitter ash. What use were oaths of fealty or dreams of valor in the face of this abomination? The petty squabbles of nobles had unleashed something far darker than they could have imagined. As skeletal hands reached for him, tearing at his armor and pulling him down into their cold embrace, Thomas realized a terrible truth. In war, death was only the beginning of the nightmare. The real horror lay in what came after, when the veil between worlds thinned, and the sins of the living called forth something ancient and merciless. His last conscious thought, before the sea of undeath swallowed him whole, was a fervent wish that this cursed field would be forgotten, that no other souls would be drawn to its hungry grasp. But even as the thought formed, he knew it was in vain. War would come again, as it always did, and the crimson field would feed. In the years that followed, locals would speak in hushed whispers of the mist that sometimes rolled across that barren plain, carrying with it the clash of spectral swords and the screams of the eternally damned. Wise travelers gave the place a wide berth, for those who ventured too close rarely returned, and if they did, they were changed, their eyes haunted by visions of a battle that never truly ended. For on the crimson field, the war raged on, a grim reminder of the true cost of human conflict and the horrors that lurk just beyond the veil of our understanding.